We live? Islam, everyone. Yeah, Groundhog Day is approaching us. Groundhog Day, and we often wondered, and then you have those of us who have contributed that to a European holiday, something that doesn't make sense. This concept of a groundhog seeing his shadow or not seeing the shadow. What does that mean? you know that's a practice that you've been doing since childhood. I recall being in school and being excited, that was Groundhog Day, and that just anticipating with anticipation, to hear if the groundhog had seen his or her shadow. And I recall that in first grade, second grade, third grade, being in the school during lunchtime, and then the teacher would tell us, "Oh, the groundhog is seeing the shadow, and or not seeing the shadow, and there's going to be longer period of spring." And now it's pleasing, it's, very exciting to now to know, the meaning of that. These things. That's something that I had known. So Groundhog Day, February 2nd. And what is Groundhog Day? What does that mean? What does the shadow have to do with anything? All right, so let's look at that. Now there are studies that have traced the hibernation patterns of groundhog and seasonal changes. So by observing groundhog and their hibernation patterns, you can determine seasonal changes. So there, in an area in upper state Pennsylvania, there is a huge celebration that thousands of Europeans gather. I think it's called Paluxy, Pennsylvania, that where there is huge celebrations of groundhog. But this is done with knowledge, though. And I said there's research found few material research done by professors. One professor of Stanford University done research on the hibernation patterns of groundhog. And also you'll see in ideograms, ideograms or ideographs where you have pictures of groundhogs in caves. So that show that this pattern, this knowledge of tracking hibernation patterns and seasonal changes of groundhog has been known for centuries. So this is not some um, activity that has no basis in truth. So that I want to set that foundation there about the groundhog. Now the concept of the shadow and not seeing the shadow. Now, in looking at the shadow concept, we're looking at timekeeping and measurement. Based on the length of the shadow, determine what time of year that spring is near. And also, what does the shadow have to do with measurements? Now, to measure in plain trigonometry, to measure the you have your height, hypotenuse, your base. Height, hypotenuse, and base. All right? So altitude, either altitude, base, altitude, hypotenuse. All right? Now, the concept of shadows, if you to measure the length of a height of a tree, you measure by you determine that by measuring the shadow that the tree casts. So you look so that shadow, the measurement of the shadow would give you the height of the tree. So there we go, looking at the concept of shadow there. Yeah, looking at the concept of the shadow. So the important to understand that there's math involved with this. Now, the sundial, the sundial is a clock. And where's that concept of the sundial? The casting of the shadow casting, and you will use create your own sundial by going into an open field and getting a huge pole or stick, long stick, 6 feet high, 5 feet high, and you would put that into the dirt, and you would you would tie a rope around it, and it's called circumput. All right, circumput, comput. All right, point around. All right, you have your point within the circle. In masonry, known as the point within the circle. That's point within the circle or circumput, representing that if placed, you place a pole or rod or stick into the dirt in an open field, and you observe the shadow, the position of the shadow, observing the position of the shadow based on the every hour, and that shadow will be cast in a different position. That's your clock. So this is ancient knowledge. So this is connected to the concept of the shadow, the groundhog. So this was put some knowledge, some science to this. So now you have, and masonry, I said, it's called point within a circle. You have point within a circle with these two parallel lines. All right. Also, you're charting the winter solstice and summer solstice. So this concept of the groundhog and shadow, it's very involved in looking at math. So the once again, happy Groundhog Day, February 2nd, and understanding that it's a that knowledge of the timekeeping and measurement and the casting of the shadow is ancient knowledge and very important for timekeeping. So the Groundhog Day concept. Now, I have my book, The Masonic Compass and Square, and the connection to measurement and timekeeping. Now, let me look at this. I'm going to read the back of the book, back cover. John Michel, who wrote the foreword for the canon, an exposition of the pagan mystery perpetuating the Kabbalah as the rule of all arts, written by William Sterling, states, the subject of the canon is the ancient and esoteric law that formally regulated every aspect of human activity, providing a canonical standard for all the arts and sciences as music, declaration, sculpture, astronomy, and the art of government, and which, according to Plato, preserved for over 10,000 years the stability of Egyptian culture. The numerical ratios of which the law was essentially composed were also applied to metaphysics and theology. The nature of the God was represented by a number, to which reference was made in the numerical value of the letters in his name, the dimensions of his temple, in the numbers of verses, in the names, in the hymns addressed to him, and in all his various rights and attributes. An initiate into these mysteries was thus able to study the relative significance of the individual gods within the cosmic scheme, of which the law was both the symbol and the image. The canon is not presented as a textbook of mythical mathematics, but has a more subtle purpose to illustrate the methods to which the priests formerly regulated the lives of the people in accordance with their interpretation of the cosmic laws and cycles. To study, to understand the meaning of this science, even to admit the possibility of an accurate and skillfully applied cosmological knowledge among the science, it is necessary to disregard several fundamental assumptions about modern history and philosophy. Well, the, the several fundamental assumptions about modern history and philosophy are these distortions, the deceptions. So we have to disregard that, and how you do that is going back to the origin, going back to the state of mind of our ancient foremothers and forefathers. And this is hence why I am presenting the astronomical meaning of the Groundhog Day. We have to dispel, disregard the assumption that Groundhog Day is some made up, not based in reality story, by giving you the math, the meaning behind the shadow, the hibernation, tracking the hibernation patterns of groundhog and seasonal changes. By giving you the science and math, it dispels. That's how you disregard, but you just disregard based on what? You have to have something to examine to so that you can disregard the assumptions. You have to have the foundational facts on which it's built on, the math, the principles in which these stories, these holidays, rituals, ceremonies, artwork, layout of cities, the geometry of the human body. What is the cosmic scheme that it's based on? So this is the importance of math and science. This is how you disregard. This is how I have come to disregard the assumptions of modern history and modern philosophy. We're talking about the distortion, the deception, the misguiding. When in modern history and modern philosophy, there is a removal of ancient principles, the removal of the suppression of the cosmic scheme, the suppression of the knowledge of creation and the principles that are expressed. Geometry. Geometry is used to replicate that which is in the divine. So to express the unseen, you use geometry. There is a natural geometrical shape that takes place that forms with the formation of crystals, snowflakes, the human body, seashells, acorns, pine cones. That has a cosmic scheme. And that cosmic scheme, that number pattern, that is a harmonious throughout nature, that's predictable and measurable. So that's what geometry is for. Hence the importance of the compass and square. And the G is geometry. So that geometry, once again, going back to groundhog and shadow. The measurement of the shadow determines that spring is near. So that compass and square is yours. Reclaim it with knowledge, not put on a hat. Put on a hat, and put on a jacket, and put on cars, but have knowledge of it. I mean, it's because it's ours. Have knowledge of it. Have knowledge of what it means. You have the bow compass and the plummet square and the G, the flower of life, and all the symbols, all the geometrical shapes, and all the shapes are embodied in the flower of life. So this universal order. So Groundhog Day is just one of the concept of universal order. We have to get back into the universal order so that we can be in harmony with the divine, the unseen. So we can express the unseen in the seen world through art, the layout of cities, understanding the measurement of the cosmic measurement and cosmic scheme of our human body, through ceremonies, that this will be a part of the fabric of society, a part of the fabric of your mind, of your consciousness, as you legislate laws, you execute laws, interpret laws, as you form government and constitution. This is part of your mental. And going back to this, the subject of the canon is the ancient and esoteric law that formally regulated every aspect of human activity, providing a canonical standard for all the arts and sciences, as music, declaration, sculpture, astronomy, and the art of government, and which, according to Plato, preserved for over 10,000 years the stability of Egyptian culture. How do we get back to a stable society? Understanding the divine, the unseen, and being in harmony with her. Being in harmony and consciousness and your artwork. The designing of buildings, the measurement of buildings, the measurement of statues, because this is a consciousness. So all that is representing is the consciousness and awareness of the cosmic scheme of the divine order. So you would structure your society to be in harmony, to reflect the unseen. But you need a knowledge of it. This is what the Europeans have suppressed. So we operate outside, lack of knowledge of this divine order, the laws of creation, how creation works, how creation is measured, geometry. That's why that compass is square. As you grow in knowledge of it, you come to embrace it. It's not a symbol to you. You understand its function and divine meaning, its purpose in society and civilization. We have to come to that level of understanding its true purpose. And you work and you position so that you can maintain that. You can filter that information and structure that in the fabric of society. Restore it in the fabric of society. As Europeans, there are classes of Europeans that have used this for themselves. So they use this to maintain power among themselves and control us, control institutions, and place us into institutions so they can, like using the Pavlov's dog, the operative conditioning. So that we are being conditioned. They guide us. They use generational astronomy, generational astrology, and using generational astrology, they can 50 years, a generation that will be born 50 years from now. They can prepare, know what prepare for its marketing. They can prepare on how to control a generation that will be born 50 years from now. And so, while these people they're 50, 60, 70 years old, but all right, they won't be living, those who are in this, but that's for their children and grandchildren. So they're maintaining the course of control for their children and for their progeny. We know they ain't gonna be living if they're 60 years old, 50 years from now. But they plan. So we're planning too. We're planning too. You need knowledge to plan. All right. So this is I wanted to go in with this so we can understand the importance, rhythm, gender, vibration, cause and effect, polarity, duality, the 7 laws of Tao-Te, and how those laws are in operation and how we can implement that in government, in the fabric of society, that this becomes our consciousness. That compass and square, it's yours. But you saying it yours, that's the first thing, first step. But know what it means. The power is knowing what it means. Putting on a hat is not the power. Putting on your car is not the power. Put on a jacket is not the power. Putting on a t-shirt is not the power. The power is having the knowledge, the applicable knowledge of what it means, its function. That's the power. And organizing people into government structure and teach this in a organized body structure and lessons. The Academy of Providence, University knows the value of that, of structured lessons. You must, through your intentions, deliberately, intentionally, organize the people in a structured format, guide them aright. It can't be done haphazardly, deliberately and intentionally. All right, so I wanted to bring this home and to express the value and importance. This is Groundhog Day, y'all. Groundhog Day, February 2nd. My man, my groundhog. Now we have we have been told, we've been conditioned that we are descendants of people who were transported from the continent of Africa to North America, Central America, and the Jordan Islands by the Portuguese and Spaniards during the 1500s, the French, the Dutch, and English during the 16 and 1700s. We were conditioned that over 10 million of us, and maybe 3 or 4 million died along the way, as we were told. So you're looking at a 13, 14 million in a span of 300 years. So what were we doing? What were we doing during that time period. Oh, we were on ships. Is that right? Is that right? On the back cover of my book, Moors and Masonry. This is the front cover, and you don't see pictures like this on the internet. You won't see a photo like this on the internet. You won't see the photo of Moors having Europeans in chains. You won't see this in the schools. This picture depicts a major aspect of history that's been buried. A major aspect. Robert Davis, professor of Italian Renaissance history, Ohio State University. The enslavement of Europeans doesn't fit the general theme of European world conquest and colonization that is central to the scholarship on the early modern era. Let me reread that. The enslavement of Europeans doesn't fit the general theme of European world conquest and colonization that is central to scholarship on the early modern era. Moors and Masonry challenges that. Challenges the theme. Moors and Masonry challenges that. We need to re-examine the transatlantic slave trade. As I said before, we've been conditioned into believing that the Portuguese and Spaniards during the 1500s, the Dutch, the English, and the French during the 16 and 1700s transported over 10 million of us to North America, Central America, South America, and the Jordan Islands, putting us in a position, mental position, to not reclaim our state, our land, because we've been conditioned that we are not native, aboriginal, indigenous to this land, that this is the Indians' land. And so there's been conditioning here. So let's look at re-examining points of analysis. European captivity held in Moorish, European captives held in Moorish captivity. During the 15, 16, 1700s, hundreds of thousands, and Professor Davis calculates over 1 million Europeans were captured by Moors and held in captivity and were held for high ransom. There were captivity, what they called redemption orders. Redemption orders that a lot of them propped up during the 15, 16, 1700s. And there were priests who, in fact, the plate that they passed around today in churches, that was done to raise money to get Europeans out of Moorish captivity. This was huge. This was huge. Newspaper reports, magazine reports. This is huge. The redemption orders are huge. Many redemption orders, many missions. Europeans, priests would raise the finance, because there were many European families who could not pay the ransom. So you need redemption orders to help this. This is a major issue during this. So this is 15, 16, 1700s. List of Europeans ships that were captured by Moors, reported in newspapers. You had Europeans petitioning the various kings and queens of Europe to intervene to get their loved ones out of Moorish captivity. This is a major issue, and Europeans have written about that. So there has been a lot of writing on this subject. I have over 100 books listed in Moors and Masonry in the bibliography section, letters, treaties. So because this is not taught in the mainstream in schools, this is taught in certain units. This is Howard University, again, Ohio State University. But it's not the Italian Renaissance history course that Professor Davis teaches is not mandatory. It's like you would have your electives. You have your 60, what's called 60 general education credits. You have 30 for your major, and you can have electives. Well, there are courses that you have to take, like U.S. history. U.S. history is a mandatory course. Well, Italian Renaissance history, where this is taught, is not mandatory. So we're talking about making this mandatory because this is European history. This is European history and Moorish history. So European history is not taught in the schools. So this is so looking at these points of analysis, and the African scholars who have not done this research, and so we have a lot of them that can't even speak on this topic. So looking at this again, the points of analysis and examining the transatlantic slave trade, tribute treaties between Moroccan Empire and European nations. Now, the tribute treaties, I have treaties between Morocco and France during the 1600s, Morocco and England during the 16 to 700, Great Britain, and Morocco and the Netherlands during the 16 to 1700s, listed in Moors and Masonry. I have the treaties between Morocco and England because they were written and translated into English. So I actually have about 6 of those treaties in Moors and Masonry. But I have the other ones listed. And you're looking at listed about 70, 80 treaties. 70, 80 treaties there. And in those treaties, there is the articles on the treaties deal with the negotiation of an exchange of prisoners, amount of money to be paid. This is a major, major, major issue, and Europeans was to address this. This was addressed in parliament, European parliaments, letters, newspapers. This is a major issue. It doesn't appear to be because it's not part of the mainstream. It's not part of the schools. So it doesn't appear to be a major issue. They've suppressed it. Why? What's the motive? Why not tell us the truth? Why not tell the Europeans the truth? What is the motive? They can't sell the transatlantic slave trade story to you. They're selling it to you. We bought it. Of course we bought it. It's easy for us to buy it. They can't sell it to you. How can they sell it to you? In the context, in the reexamination of analyzing this in those points. How? The story is 300 years. Spaniards, Dutch, Portuguese, French, unmolested. 300 years. That's not true. That is not true. How did they come? Europeans come into world power by defeating the Moors. There's a direct correlation of our rise, of their rise, and our fall, because they were fighting us. Is that absolutely, absolutely? So we got Black History Month coming up and beyond. We have to re-examine this transatlantic slave trade story, and I know it's emotional for a lot of our people. You know, they've been conditioned, this white man and so evil, and our ancestors and died along the way, and they transported us. How dare they take us out of Africa? How dare they? You know what I mean? And brought us to this country, and we built this country. Please, it's emotional. Just look at the facts. Look at the facts. Tremendous amount of research has been done because Europeans are writing about history. They want to know, why would European professors write about this? They want to know. They want to know the history. When Linda Colley, professor of history and English, at that time she was at Yale University, now at Princeton. Linda Colley, when she was at Yale in the 70s, she had Linda Colley's, her specialty is narratives, European narratives. When Europeans were in Moorish captivity, and they were either escaped or a lot of them were, like I said, ransom. They wrote narratives. They had called slave narratives. Well, they wrote narratives about their experience. Right? So, in writing narratives about their experience, Linda Colony was pressured by her male European colleagues. So they don't want this out. I don't give a rat's. You know what they want. All right. So looking at, so that was just giving you a little tidbit about the as Black History approaches us, History Month approaches us, and looking at the importance of our history, reclaiming our history. Now, the groundhog. Let's look at going back to the groundhog and the concept of the shadow. All right. We have here base, altitude, and hypotenuse. When continuing with the concept of groundhog and also measuring, when you're looking at measuring angles in geometry, you use geometry to angles, degrees. Degrees are used in geometry, but radius is used in trigonometry. They use radius in trigonometry and angles and degrees in geometry. So let's go back to the shadow. Shadow casting. So we have shadow casting. All right. Shadow casting, time keeping, we have measurement. Sundials. Talk about sundials. And I said before, a simple sundial is you can do it yourself. It has to be in an open field because you can't just be surrounded around trees. You have to be in an open field so you can actually see the casting of the shadow off whatever pole or rod or stick you would use. So it has to be an open field. And so you would see the casting of that shadow and the change of the position of the shadow during the course of the day. So you can determine the time of the day based off that. That's an ancient, so this that's an ancient clock. That's the ancient, meaning that the clock, the watch that you have on your wrist is based off that knowledge. So the Europeans will call these people primitives. That's applying the connotative meaning, unsophisticated. But that's not the etymology. First, how did the word primitive gain the connotative meaning of unsophisticated? Unsophisticated, lack of knowledge of math and science. They're primitive. That's primitive. That means first, prince. Prince. How does that come to mean primitive? I mean, we are primitive. We're the first. Well, you know what I mean? No. We are primitive. We're the first. And they're not primitive. Like to say, well, yeah, see, we're not primitive. The Europeans are. Whoa, 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 whoa. No. How the Europeans ain't no primitive? They're not first. How you claiming to be the ancient people, but you say you're not primitive? You are primitive. You're the first. Once again, we going with the connotative meanings. Construction, how they control our minds through construction and get us off. So we'll, dump words because we are using the connotative meanings. We are distancing, we swear we got a little something on our cap, so we distance ourselves from the word as opposed to reclaiming the word and restoring the ancient meaning, the etymology of the word, the true meaning of the word. So Groundhog Day. So to give you, so looking at this, shadow casting, timekeeping, purpose, measurement, concept of sundials. So what concepts do we get out of Groundhog Days? Pull those concepts out. Now, spring. Spring is near. So this concept that let's go wet. Oh, we can the spring, there's more time of spring and all right. So as the shadow gets longer, spring is nearer. All right. So we know that Christmas So let's tie this Christmas and Groundhog Day. And look at, let's start here. Let me do a timeline. Christmas, December 25th. All right? That's the birth of Jesus, the birth of the Son. Then we had February, Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day. That's February 2nd. All right? So what has occurred? What has been occurring? The birth of the Son occurred on December 25th. After dying, all right? December 21st, the Son died. Jesus died on the cross. Jesus died on the 21st. The Son died. The Son, that was the lowest point of declination, the winter solstice. This is a connection here, showing you the connection. All right? The Son, Jesus, was in the tomb for 3 days, or the Son hovers for 3 days. Solstice, Sun, stand. From that point on, so once the Sun, the days incrementally get longer for every 7 days, there's a 10-minute increase in the day. There's been a 10-minute increase in the day every 7 days. So days are getting longer and longer and longer. So the strength of the Sun, as the Sun was weak, it died. Its lowest point of declination, weak, then born again. And it's incrementally gets stronger, or days getting longer. So they increase in sunlight. So the sun setting is now, all right. Let me do this. I'm going to draw a house. I know, too big. Let me draw a house. All right, draw a house. So I have to draw an image so you can see this. All right. That's the sun. December. All right, actually it's lower. Sun is over here. All right. The sun. This is the sun. This is the sun. All right. That's December. All right. The winter solstice. Winter solstice. This is the winter solstice sun. The lowest point of declination. All right. This is the vernal equinox. All right. And then this is the summer solstice. Summer solstice. Summer solstice sun. Vernal equinox. Vernal equinox. All right. And autumnal equinox. Sun. In relationship to this house. In relationship to this house. So the sun is casting. All right. So you can see the concept of the sun dying in relationship to the house, all right, as the sun rises, it's not going to rise this at this height during this type of year. It rises this height during the summer solstice. But during this time of year, in relationship to the sun, this is important for even for engineers and building houses. Again, this connected to groundhog. The knowledge of the sun and the casting of the sun, the position of the sun, days getting longer. So this is connected to that. This is the body of knowledge. Because it's not in isolation. Like it can't be just in isolation. Because it doesn't happen in isolation. Because you have the death, the rebirth, days incrementally getting longer. Because without that first, you ain't talking about no Groundhog Day. All right, so that's why I wanted to put that in perspective there. All right, so days getting longer. So we're looking at a month, about 6 weeks, four weeks. January, 4 weeks, about 5 weeks. So this is a 5-week period from Christmas to Groundhog Day, the 5-week period. So we're 5 weeks. So that's 7 days. So we're looking at 5 weeks. That's 50 minutes. So that's 50 minutes, a 50-minute increase in the day. A 50-minute increase in the day from December 25th to today. A 50-minute increase. Every 7 days is a 10-minute increase. So it's a 50-minute increase. So the day, 50-minute increase in the day. So the sun, so there's more sunlight. There's 50 minutes more sunlight from December 25th to the day. There's 50 minutes more sunlight. That's not something that we really, because we got to measure it. That's not something because we're not conscious of it. But I want to be conscious. I want y'all to be conscious of it. Look at the sunrise, sunset charts. Google sunrise, sunset charts. So we have another one, sunrise and sunset charts. Sunrise, listen more sunrise and sunset charts. Just giving y'all, solid information. Sunrise and sunset charts. And you'll see this. Now I want you to be conscious of it though. See, it's our being conscious of it. We're not conscious of it. But we were once conscious of it. All right? So my Masonic Compass is square, the connection and measurement and timekeeping book. If you want more information. All right? Go to Moors and Masonry.org. All right. Go to Moors and Masonry, get the Masonic Compass Square and the connection to measurement timekeeping to get more information about even Christmas, July 4th. All right. And the winding staircase, the point within the circle, the point within the circle with the two parallel lines, St. John's Day, which is celebrated in all of Masonry on June 24th, St. John's Day. It's a huge celebration in all of Masonry. All right, so mooresandmasonry.org to get that information. So the value, what is the value of this information? Empowerment, but not as individuals. Let's be clear on that. Not as individuals. I would always talk this. And our unity, this knowledge and our unity. The Albions do not work as individuals. They have linguists. I explained to Terrence this morning. You have the National Linguist Association. So PhD linguists belong to associations, psychologists, sociologists, engineers, keep naming them. They have a national association. They have your local ones. They have national associations, national conventions, because they understand unity. They exchange information. They have conferences. They give papers at these conferences. That's unity. That's organization. Why don't we follow that? All we want to do it by ourselves. That's no power. So you having, all right, I have this knowledge. What does that mean if I don't share it? I have it. Does that make me powerful? No. When millions of our people are asleep, so how am I powerful? How would I have power? All right, how am I free? How am I free when most of our people are enslaved? I'm free. I'm free. Free from what? All right, so also to get Moors and Masonry, you go to mooresandmasonry.org. All right, to get my book Moors and Masonry, mooresandmasonry.org. And I trust I've done so good in elevating your mind and preparing your minds and so that you can have a proper view of Groundhog Day. All right. So on Betelgeuse Day is coming up, and we'll do a presentation on Betelgeuse Day, which is known as Valentine's Day. All right. So thank you for joining us. The Academy of Providence will continue to have classes and work to educate our people. All right. Once again, thank you, everyone. And I trust that I was able to illuminate you just this smidget, just a smidget to, move that needle along, so that you can be further along the path than you were before you listened to me today. All right. Thank you again. Once again, go to mooresandmasonry.org to get the books, mooresandmasonry.org. All right. Thank you again, everyone. All right. Peace.